So if we return to our unit of competency, in element 1 we're preparing for validation, and 1.1 in the performance criterion there on the right, we need to discuss and confirm the approach to validation. So that's where we're going to start. So there's various validation approaches. One is meetings, and that can be either face-to-face or using internet technology these days. It could be a teleconference or a webcast. But a meeting would be more than one person, more than one assessor. And moderation is one form of a validation process. So moderation is where we're looking at the outcomes of being competent or not competent. So a group of assessors would meet and they would compare their judgments from the same assessment tool. This is a really great way to conduct professional development, and it's a fantastic way to build an assessor's confidence that they're making consistent judgments. And we need to stop and take a look at the principles of assessment. So here we can see on the left-hand side the principles of assessment, and you can see reliability. Now, if the assessment tool's assessor guidelines are reliable, then these assessors are going to be making consistent judgments. Now, another reason you would meet is to trial a new assessment tool. And this is good to do in a team assessment approach. So again, our team here would be at the same time, they would have a different candidate's assessment tool. It would be the same tool. So for example, your module 1. And they all might have a different candidate's module 1, and they're going through the questions and they're going through the samples of Susan's assessment tool, and they're all seeing if they're making the same judgment. Now, it's pretty easy with the question instrument with Evoke because it's multiple choice, and there's going to be that red text, which is the benchmark correct response. But it's more these guys sitting around and looking at the exemplar of what a satisfactory form for Susan's assessment plan would be. And so certain discussions they would have about that would be, the submission that Nick might have that may have left off the date. So as a group we're going to judge, well, would it still be satisfactory where they've just had a clerical error as a date left off? So these are the type of things that we're looking at in an assessment meeting, where all of the assessments conducted at the same time, we're all reaching agreements, and perhaps also clarifying or rewriting what those assessor guidelines are. So they could all go away and mark 100 of them each, and all know then that their results were going to be consistent. It's also important for appeals. So the team's sitting around and perhaps there's been a complaint, someone's disagreed that they're not yet competent, and this would more likely happen in a recognised prior learning situation, that they haven't had sufficient evidence. And this is where the team would get together and they might all have copies of the same submission, and they're all looking at their judgments and just deciding and applying the rules of evidence. So over on the right hand side they're checking a recognised prior learning for whether it's current. So perhaps the evidence might be from 20 years ago, so it's not going to reflect current industry practice. Maybe the piece of evidence didn't meet all of the requirements of the unit, but together as a group they can work out whether enough rigour has been placed, so whether they're being too picky or not picky enough, and as a panel would be making a decision on that appeal. Now, another reason for the approach of a meeting would be for the team to look at the processes, the resources and the systems within the RTO. So they're looking at the reporting and recording systems. And perhaps this is part of their professional development, and Evoke has just recently upgraded to a new software package or a different level of that. And perhaps we're going to move from just having the directors enter in all of the training data and wanting to teach the trainers how to do that. So as we've gone through that training process, they're all providing feedback on that new process and saying, well, hey, look, it's a bit methodical. Can't you just spend an extra $500 and allow the people to enroll automatically straight onto the AusSoft program? You know, that's going to save us a lot of time. It's going to prevent some mistakes. You know, we certainly can't afford to get a candidate's name spelled incorrectly, because that would then come out on the certificate incorrectly. So they can all start discussing the current processes and look at the budget and where the money should be prioritised. Now there's also external panels, and this is where you might have representatives from different RTOs, and they would all get together and compare the assessment tools that they use for the rigour of those tools. So whenever you're going along to an external panel, you'd be wanting to take along a copy of the full training package. So this one here, TAE 10, is the 1,000-odd page document, and you'd be armed with that, so then you can be making objective comments, and you would be pointing to particular requirements within that training package. So for example, a lot of the issues tend to be around validity. So whether one RTO's assessment tool reflects the AQF level. So here's just a close-up of the homepage of the AQF, the Australian Qualifications Framework homepage of the website, and I've just clicked through to Certificate 4 level. It has the range from Certificate 1 all the way through. So these are the specifications of if you're having a level of rigour in your assessment activities, it would have to meet this Certificate 4 level. And here the AQF is reflected within that 1,000-page TAE 10 document. These are the characteristics of learning outcomes at a Certificate 4 level of that TAE 40110 course. So this is the type of information you'd be pointing to. So there we are. We've given you a little tip if you're ever going to panel. And finally, another approach would be to have a consultant. You would actually pay a validating consultant to come, and they would be again looking at the rigour. So perhaps you've just come back from an external panel and you've got some doubts from some of the feedback you had from other RTOs. So you've actually employed a consultant. All right, so they're a completely neutral party. There's no bias. You've got to realise that we're competing businesses. So, you know, it might be wise coming from an external panel and really getting an unbiased judgment there. But a consultant could also be an industry expert, and they're looking through your materials to see if you're applying current best practice.